Lord Hain.
Yes.
Unelected Lord Hain. What are you proposing to do to the bill when it arrives in the Lords?
Well, I will be tabling and moving 2 amendments. One to keep the border with Northern Ireland, the open border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which I think is crucial to the peace process. If you went back on that and you started having blockages, I think it could unravel in a serious way. And I say that as a former Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. And secondly, to keep the UK in the single market.
Membership of?
Membership of the single market, not resisting the Article 50 bill, but actually saying to protect jobs, to protect prosperity. When people voted, they voted to leave the European Union. I understand that. But they didn't vote explicitly to leave the single market. And indeed, some of the Brexit leaders, Boris Johnson included, said they wanted to keep the single market.
I think that's not quite right, actually. I think Boris, in the end, did say he would leave the single market.
But he did actually commit himself to support the single market.
Just to be clear, if you don't get your way on the amendments, so you'll have a good argument, bash that around. You don't get your way, how will you vote on the Article 50?
I'll vote against.
You'll vote against if you don't get it?
I'll vote against, because on principle and in conscience, right, I cannot support something that I think will damage the country and damage especially the people who most need support from the government.
Does that raise any red flags for you, Suella?
I think that is an abuse of power, Peter. I think it's arrogant snobbery that the people voted against for. No, who are you actually voting for? Who do you actually represent? Your party, most of your Labour constituencies voted to leave. You've got a 3-line whip from your leader to vote to support Article 50, and you will not have any mandate or legitimacy to do what you're doing. There is now a clear, blindingly clear message from the Commons for this unamended bill passed with a huge majority. That sends a clear message to the Lords about the duty that they need to now discharge. And to do otherwise would reduce this country to nothing more than an autocratic regime which trampled over the democratic will of the people.
Look what the House of Lords has done on a previous occasion. We amended a bill to protect 4 million people who are going to lose their tax credits in legislation you voted for in the House of Commons, as a result of which the government had to do a U-turn and keep those tax credits. That's the role that the House of Lords has played. There isn't going to be some attempt to wreck this bill.
There is a convention that the manifesto pledges are respected by the House of Lords. So there was a manifesto pledge to stay in the single market.
Absolutely.
We say yes to the single market was in the Tory manifesto. As the referendum was also in the manifesto, people were entitled to think that the policy was to stay in the single market, whatever the result of the referendum.
Well, firstly, this bill is not actually about... this is about the process of giving the government the mandate to send the notification to Brussels to trigger Article 50. It's not about anything else. That's why it's passed through totally unedited and unaltered. And secondly, we had months of debate and campaigning and discussion and argument about what Brexit would mean. Both sides agreed that leaving the European Union would mean leaving the internal market. It doesn't make any sense.
The leaders never made that clear. Never made that clear. They disagreed.
The official campaign did make that clear, Peter. I mean, Michael Gove did make it explicitly
not all of the leaders.
Clear.
When I knocked on doors, 2 things were said. One, the 350 million a week would come back to the National Health Service. That resonated on the doorstep. That was a lie.
Not
Secondly,
a lie, not at all.
Oh, I see. You're going to promise it now, are you? Are you promising it now?
It is incontrovertible that this country sends approximately £350 million.
We're not going into that one. We're not going into that one.
The second was immigration. The single market never came up on the doorstep. When people realise that say Jaguar car makers or Nissan are going to face tariffs and barriers and British industry and our exports and our jobs and our prosperity will be badly damaged by that, then I think there's an opportunity for the House of Lords to say, hang on, we can actually amend this bill. There's no intention to wreck the bill. The House of Lords has never said we're going to actually
amendment of the type that you're proposing, Peter, would fundamentally alter the nature of the bill as proposed. It would change the effect, and it would have the effect of delaying the process, of exposing the government to judicial review, and actually weakening our position when it came to negotiation with the European Union. This is about the procedure of withdrawal, nothing more, nothing less.
And my amendment says that the question of the single market has to be part of that process. You can leave under Article 50, but the single market has to be retained. Because I will not vote for anything which impoverishes this country, especially the low-income, poorer members of this country.
Points all made. I don't want to carry on with that. I want to ask whether this would provoke a constitutional crisis. So, Suella, would this, for you, be an issue about abolition of the House of Lords, or is this just a bluff? Because my sense is that Tory MPs don't want to abolish the House of Lords, and they're not going to do it over one vote, are they?
I think this would really call into question the position
Really?
of the Lords.
Really? The
Actually,
existence
yes,
of the House of Lords?
The significance of this constitutional significance is important.
You could
But
get a majority in the House.
About,
But you could get a majority in the House to abolish the House of Lords.
But just think about what it does to
threatening.
public trust, actually. I'm actually more concerned about our voters and the people who put their trust in us to go to Parliament to deliver on their instruction. You've seen the referendum, they've voted for a referendum and they've got a result. They've seen the Commons vote in a particular way. And then, by some quirk of abuse of procedure or constitutional technicality, a completely different outcome emerges because of Lords like you not honouring the instruction, the clear instruction and direction from the British people and now the Commons to do the right thing and follow the lead of your Labour MPs who voted with the government tonight.
I would like to be elected to the House of Lords. I believe in an elected chamber, but the existing system says you're appointed. I was appointed by the Labour Party. 2/3 of Labour voters voted to remain within the European Union. They need to be respected. This country was split down the middle. If your government had been acting in a one-nation fashion to find a way through this that respected the 48% who voted Remain, as well as the 52% who should be respected, I agree, for voting to leave, if they found a way of actually bringing the country together, that might be very different, but they're going for a hard right-wing Brexit, and I cannot support that.
Follow the lead of your Labour MPs who joined us in the eye lobby tonight. They did the right thing, they respect the referendum and they're revering democracy.
That is an argument we'll be hearing in the House of Lords over the next few weeks. Thank you both very much.